way this project came about was really through the task and finish groups relating to new activities. So I became part of a group looking at additional provision for the Federation. So that included things like alcohol rehab detox, that sort of thing, retirement, provision for people leaving prison, so approved premises, that sort of thing, and also women's provision. So I think the reason that we, Emmaus Norfolk and Waveney, were allocated the task of exploring women's provision was because we'd already gone a few steps along the way. So back in 2020 we refurbished this building behind us, which is an old refectory building with a horrible 1930s extension, and we knew we wanted to create more rooms for companions and build the community. So we started doing that. We started a big refurbishment project at the beginning of 2020, which went on through the lockdown period. What we wanted to address as part of that project was the statistics in East Anglia, which showed that there were very similar numbers of men and women on the streets sleeping rough. And we wanted to explore and address issues around why we had so few women in the community, and at that time no women in the community. On the back of that we created a women's only wing, which is just here behind me, so it's quite sort of separated from the rest of the building, and within 3 months we'd completely filled all of the beds without even advertising particularly. And not only did we fill that part of the building, we also had referrals coming in and a lot more interest from women in general, who then went into other parts of the community. The proposal that we are looking at means that we will take on the lease of a property at the back of our site. We want to explore what happens if we do a year-long pilot with 9 women in this house, and set up potentially three micro enterprises which support this particular community. What we're suggesting is that we address some of the gender specific issues that have come up with the females we've been working with. Things like sexual violence, domestic abuse, loss of children, coercive control, that sort of thing, with the idea that the focus is on empowering women and resilience. So this is not about saying that women are more vulnerable than men. In all the communities we work with vulnerable adults, and different people have different vulnerabilities. It's simply addressing gender specific vulnerabilities that we have now come to understand as a result of having at least 5 women in the community at certain times. It's about creating equity within communities. We provide equality, but it's about making those adjustments in order to ensure we are equitable. It could be that some of the things that we decide really don't work, or they're too intense, or it might be that some things work really, really well. What we're hoping for is that the rest of the Federation, or members of the Federation who are interested, have some input in this and ask us to trial certain things, so that as many lessons as possible are learned, and that the pilot is really valuable for everybody in the Federation. So at the moment, the thinking is that the project will last for 1 year, starting from hopefully July next year, that there will be 9 beds available, because this is a 9-bedroom house with ensuite, that there'll be 2 facilitators for workshops, so experienced facilitators, and that the general support will come from our existing support team, and then Move On will come from our existing Move On support within our community already. In terms of the micro enterprises, this is almost like an extension of the therapeutic offer in a way, because what we're proposing here, and for the purposes of the pilot, is a textiles enterprise which makes use of a lot of the rags and textiles that we already have coming into the community. So that would be one of the enterprises. To counter that and make sure that we're not pushing kind of gender specific enterprises, we would like to put our blacksmith's forge into use, so have female forgers. And we're also weighing up whether or not we would like to set up a small micro bakery which would latch on to our existing catering operations and be useful for the social enterprises that we're developing here, and potentially also looking at letterpress, which could also tie into the textiles enterprise. I'm conscious that at Emmaus Norfolk and Waveney we have a huge amount of space and buildings, and that isn't the case for all of the communities. So what I expect is that the learning from this pilot can be adapted, condensed and used by other communities where appropriate. We can look at ways that things can be adapted, whether that's Zoom interventions, whether it's short stays, or whether it's that communities can adapt some of the learning to fit in with their own communities. So this is an opportunity for us to look at the Women's Only project and obviously all be really nervous because we're in front of a camera, but have a little chat and ask some key questions that we've put together. Who wants to kick us off with a question?
I'm actually drug free at the moment. Will you have ladies come in what are actually using or actively using?
So my opinion on that is, well, we don't have people coming to any Emmaus community who are actually using, do we? No. We have people who are in recovery, and obviously people have, lapses from recovery, and we try and support people through that. But on the whole, our ethos is about supporting people to stay in recovery. I imagine if you're undergoing a therapeutic journey, quite intensive, it's going to be marred. Yeah, you need to be stable. It's going to be marred somewhat if you're not, sticking to sobriety.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard enough to stop already, let alone doing that all on top.
Yeah.
And I think obviously there's like a massive risk to health if they're coming in and still, for like everyone and themselves, if they're still using or drinking.
Yeah. How do you think the male cohort here would feel about there being individualised provision for women that's quite intensive and quite different to the main community provision? Do you think there'll be some feeling that, what about us?
I can't see it, to be honest with you. You just want people, well, I want people to get better. I want people to, become better people, deal with stuff. So I can't see him having a problem with it.
But like Cecile said, there's more people involved, so you might feel that, but other men probably think the opposite, innit?
Could do.
They wouldn't think it would be fair.
I think we'll learn a lot which can be used for the men in our communities as well, because every person who comes into an Emmaus community has experienced a level of trauma.
I think as long as the guys are aware and they still get the continued support, I think, because obviously they might have a bit of a situation where they start to feel like, well, I've been through that, I've had those situations and I've got traumas, but as long as they still get support that they need, I don't think that they should feel like they're missing out, because obviously the community as it is largely populated by men, so there's 4 women at the moment, so it's almost like, not that they would have their own place, but as long as they're getting the support, they don't feel like they're missing out on much, if that makes sense.
I think that's the key. Like you said, there's nothing for women, really. This is the only place what I've known what really where they mix men and women together as it is, and there's nothing out there really for women. So as long as I keep the guys up to date with everything and say why it's a good idea and get everyone on board, then...
Would you bring mental health diagnosis, people with mental health diagnosis? I think, because we got a few cases in here.
Yeah.
So don't think there would be a problem.
No.
Unless, I don't know.
They're not being
with
treated.
medication or,
I think the same would apply as for this community now, is we take everybody on their own merit. So We would just need to make sure that we had really good information around someone's specific needs, and if there was quite a complex and serious mental health issue, we wouldn't necessarily exclude that individual, but we would just need to make sure that that individual had the necessary diagnosis, medication and care plan around them to support them. Because bearing in mind it's a pilot and we're learning, maybe in year 3 we might be able to say, okay, we can be a lot more inclusive.
Might end up doing more damage if someone's like, especially if they've just got a diagnosis for something and they're trying to, get back on track.
And unpeeling trauma and hearing other people's trauma.
Would they still be working?
Okay, really good question. So kind of originally thought we might do is have the micro enterprises attached to the project.
Yeah.
So with the women working about 30 hours in the micro enterprises and then about 10 hours in workshops, therapy workshops, and some one-to-one, doing the same development meetings that you guys do, MVQs with Vic, with Ken Bates Associates, that sort of thing. But as time progressed, have the women working 1 or 2 days in the wider community as time goes by.
What will be the long-term goal then, once they've done the course? Do they just get released? Right, you've done your course now, right, boom, or get the chance to stay to join the rest of the community, or...
Really good question, Steve. So several things to address in there. What's one of the main ethoses about Emmaus that is unique to other organisations? We offer a home for life, if needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's massive, because that's about taking the whole feeling of homelessness off the table, isn't it, in a way? Wouldn't want to go, hi, been here for a year, bye. So we need to make sure that there's adequate female provision in the community for those who want to stay, or some people will be working on a move on plan maybe 6 months, 9 months into their stay. Normally when women come into the community, they come in one by one, or anybody comes into the community. It's a culture that builds bit by bit, and the dynamics build. But this is about implanting 10 people, new people, into the community. So that's going to be disruptive.
Are
one
the
way or
guys
another.
going to be like peacocks, cocking the feathers? Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
normal
If you
stuff.
do get it,
Yeah.
You know, showing off a bit or whatnot.
I suppose you got that with people, like, people with different sexualities. If you have a lesbian, you never know what that's going to be like with a whole house. And obviously,
true.
I don't know what
That's
you
true.
think about like,
Relationships within the house,
people that are going through transitioning and stuff, who are transgender, and whether that would be something in the later years
question.
or what would make people feel comfortable.
What do you think? I'm going to put that out to you, because you guys have lived in the community, you've all had experience of this. How do you think this would sit in the pilot and then beyond?
Me personally, looking at, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but you've got women what are going to be coming in, what are struggling, trusting men, maybe see someone trans in still as a man, and maybe block themselves off to
opening up,
and not feel comfortable.
Okay.
I think if you're going to be working in a group and someone doesn't, because obviously everyone's got completely different views on that, depending on the point in the transition that they're going through.
Hormones as well.
If they're at the very beginning of it, someone might find that a little bit more triggering or uncomfortable, because everyone's got different views.
When you start talking about all of these things, you think, oh, blimey, this is complicated, isn't it? But what's your general feeling on the whole concept? Are you still feeling as positive as you were in the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
It's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
I can't emphasise enough how important it is for us at Emmaus Norfolk and Waveney that this is something that's very interlinked with the rest of the Federation, because this is on behalf of the rest of the Federation, really, and hopefully everybody will learn from this project, and at the end of it we can provide more relevant, robust support for the women who will come to Emmaus. Oh, damn.